Good morning.
Make sure it's turned out all the way. I'm one of those weirdos who enjoys cold showers. Make sure I have a blast as well.
Good morning YouTube, so back for another video. Today I'm going to be bringing you through the day in my life. It's certainly not going to be the most exciting day because my life is pretty monotonous. If you want to save yourself the boredom, you can just like the video, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one. But if you want to stay around and watch the video, I'll show you how I run my day today. So as you see in there, I wake up at 6:30, so in and around that time most mornings. Sometimes I might sleep a little bit later, sometimes I might get up a little bit earlier. I don't set an alarm anymore, so I just wake up naturally, have a shower straight away. Whether it's hot or cold, doesn't really matter. There's no real kind of benefit to the cold showers. I just started doing them like a year ago. I thought there was some benefit to them, but it doesn't really seem like there actually is any benefit other than doing something hard first thing in the morning. And that's kind of the main reason I do it. If I can do something hard as soon as I get up, it makes other things a little bit easier to do throughout the rest of the day. Next up then, as you know, morning coffee, and I am going to get stuck into this book. So Thinking Fast and Slow, read it before, very good. It's all about cognitive biases, you know, how we think and how we can try to evade different cognitive biases too, and you know, try to spot like common fallacies that I see in people's thinking. So definitely would recommend it. Sure, yeah, won a Nobel Prize, so it is a very good book. So yeah, that's it. I am going to read this, drink my coffee, and then I have to watch my check-in from Brad, and yeah, we'll see if there's any changes.
All right, my friend, I think that's all I've got for you. So looks like it's the start to a very good week. And if you have any questions or any all right, take care, Shane. Bye-bye.
No change. That's what we love to see.
That is the check-in process all finished. So the way Brad does his check-ins is similar to how I do them. So he sends over a video, and as you should if you do have a coach, after you receive your check-in response, you should send them back a response, okay? Just letting them know, you know, if they have any questions for you, anything they want you to implement, any questions they have, like especially around how you are going to approach a process, like definitely do let them know. So this week I was concerned that I am going away next weekend, and one of the days I'm going away is going to be like a training day, and I don't intend on training when I'm over there at all. Like I'm going away with my friends. So my kind of issue was, how am I going to get in on my training before then? Because I don't want to let my training run over to the following week, because that just becomes a nightmare for me. So I want to know his kind of advice as to what was going to be the most important things for me to get in. And he basically just said, reduce the overall intensity that you're going to be training at for the following, you know, week or so. Just make sure I'm getting in the volume. My kind of email response there back to him is just essentially stating the intention on how I'm going to divide up my days. Like for the most part, it's going to remain similar enough, just with less rest days, and I'm going to be shifting some of my heavier movements. So like my pause deadlifts, for example, I'm going to do that on Sunday as opposed to do it on Tuesday, because next week then I'll be doing my usual Tuesday session, and then my deadlift session right the day after. If I was not to modify that, that would be pause deadlift, high bar, and then the following day doing heavy deadlifts, which would just be very taxing in terms of, from a recovery standpoint, and performance would definitely be impacted. Now, my overall recovery is going to be impacted nonetheless over the next like 9 days, but at the end of the day, I just had a deload, so I should be fine, and I don't mind pushing a little bit because it's a unique circumstance. I'm not going away every single weekend. That's pretty much how I think most people should approach these things. You know, if your coach does ask you questions and you have set goals and you have not necessarily set the intention on how you're going to achieve those goals in your check-in, you know, try to actually come up with some way and voice it to your coach. Because if you say, I want to hit my protein this week, but you don't have actually any kind of frame of reference as to how you're going to hit your protein this week, it could just end up that you get to the end of the week and you haven't hit your protein because you haven't said, okay, at breakfast, lunch, dinner, I'm going to aim for this amount of protein per meal. The sources I'm going to use are X, Y, and Z. And that can really help you stay on track with your goals and make a better plan than just saying, I want to hit something. Okay, so yeah, that's my 2 cents, and I'll chat to you in a bit. I'm going to do some study and then have a walk. Hi. There we are, out on the walk, morning walk with my dear. Emma is also on prep now. Do that again. Fucking awful. So yeah, the two of us are on prep now, so that makes things a little bit easier. Now we're going to be both very dedicated. She won't be getting any takeaways at the weekend while I'm eating my normal meals. Emma, this is also her first competition, season 2. Be interested to see how she gets on. She's going to do very well. That's it, morning walk, then breakfast, then training.
And action.
We are just on the way to the gym now. So today I have deadlift and squat variation day today. So I have high bar squats, I have pause deadlifts, and then I've got Larson press. And then for like bodybuilding work, I have mainly some back work to do. So I have a T-bar row, I've got a pull down, some lateral raises, and some chest flies. So that's kind of what's on the menu today. Now today is probably like one of the sessions that I actually don't really enjoy that much. Number one, because I have to do things that I'm not great at. So I have like the high bar, for example. The reason I have that in there is essentially to improve my quad strength. So my quads in my squat are definitely my limiting factor, and you can see in like a lot of any videos where I start to struggle, it's when typically my hips cock back, and that will kind of indicate a quad weakness. So that's why the high bars are in there, just to get better at things I'm shit at, essentially, as well as the pause deadlift. So yeah, it just helps me with improving pulling the slack from the bar, which I can be hit and miss at as well. I typically tend to miss deadlifts if I ever do, just below the knee. So that's kind of what I'm trying to work on there. Then the rest of the session is fine, to be honest. It's more so just like the thoughts of having to do the high bar and pause deadlift within the one session is quite grim. I also feel quite fried after this. So I am doing this session first thing after breakfast before I get into my check-ins for the rest of the day, and that's pretty much then got to be the plan for the rest of the day. Get this session ticked off, do check-ins, go for a stroll, and then relax for the rest of the evening pretty much. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the gym.
And since I know you all want to know what I'm doing, I am training upper body today.
Here we are, back with another voiceover. Today is my SBD variation day, plus a lot of bodybuilding work. So starting off with a pause deadlift here, and working with 210 for sets of 4. Well, this is my top set actually, and I drop down after. So this is a set of 4 here. Shout out to the genius who stood in front of my camera, even though it was blatantly obvious, and decided to knock it over too. But yeah, pause deadlifts. I am a big fan of this variation. They help me learn how to pull slack out of the bar. Even though I've been powerlifting for so many years, I still am yet to master that skill. I understand the concept, just not great at it. But anyway, yeah, you can definitely see if you look at my natural video and on my final deadlift, like the bar really pulled the slack out of me because I didn't pull the slack from the bar. So yeah, that's definitely something you do want to learn if you want to build your deadlift. Next up was high bar squats. So high bar is definitely not a variation I am extremely excited about, but it is one that benefits me nonetheless. So I definitely struggle with high bar, as my weakness typically in my squats is going to be my quads. They're definitely my limiting factor. So trying to keep my torso as upright is quite a challenge, as well as like just even the higher bar position. I never really feel that it's like extremely tight when it's sitting up there, compared to like when it's sitting on your rear delts when you're doing low bar. Another thing that's really not helping is in this gym, the actual floorboard here is warped, which, you know, when you're trying to put force through the floor and the floor is like a bouncy castle, it is very difficult. That last set though, I definitely was a bit too lax going into it. I definitely lacked some intensity. So this one I decided to switch on and actually, you know, try to move the bar a little faster. So this set definitely went way better. Just got a bit more aggressive, and it can't be, like, you know, understated the actual effect of getting yourself psyched up for a set can help. Because if you're going into a set and you're just like, oh, whatever, you know, you're really not going to be applying as much force into that bar as you can. You're probably not going to be getting the most from the set. So yeah, that was that set of 6 done. So 180 for 6. So next up is going to be Larson press, medium grip as well. My medium grip is probably most people's wide grip, realistically. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of this variation as well. Just to remove the leg drive from it, and just pretty much, you know, it doesn't isolate the chest, because you can't really isolate muscles at all, because obviously you're going to be, you know, my anterior delts working here, it's going to be my triceps working here. But, you know, I definitely do feel way more pec involvement here versus when my feet are on the ground, because when my feet are on the ground, I'm definitely going to be using a bit more leg drive as well. But yeah, definitely a variation I really enjoy, and yeah, would recommend. Right, next up is some pull downs. So I have 3 sets of 6 here, I believe. 3 sets of 6 to 10.
So again, using that neutral grip handle just to get more of a lat focus with it, letting for a good stretch at the top, and then just think about driving the elbows down into the sides. Really important here that you have that leg rest actually, you know, pinned down as hard as you can onto your thighs to stop you getting pulled forward and up, because yeah, that weight stack is essentially just trying to drive you up out of the actual seat. Next up was the machine chest fly. So I had been doing a cable chest fly with cuffs attached. However, the close cable stack is out of action at the moment, so this was the next best option. Big consideration here when you are doing any kind of fly is you're really thinking about trying to touch your elbows off each other as opposed to trying to touch your hands. Okay, the reason for that is that your chest is going to be attached to your upper arm, so the upper arm coming across your body is what's going to determine your pec shortening. If you have a huge degree of bend in your elbow and you're not really getting much of that upper arm across the body, you're not really going to be getting much of your pec shortening. So that's kind of what we're looking to aim for in this movement. Next up is the T-bar row. I am using a more kind of medium grip here with overhand position, and the focus here is going to be upper back and rear delts. So again, the way you're going to target your rear delts or upper back is going to be due to the arm path. So an arm path that's like more abducted, so more away from the midline of your body, is going to target the more upper back or target your rear delts. Now your upper back is kind of, it's a word that's kind of used to describe like rhomboids, traps, rear delts. So the main way we're kind of looking at that is, well, the traps especially, they're going to be getting challenged in just protraction and retraction, and then rear delts, they're going to be getting challenged in horizontal abduction, and similar with the rhomboids, they're going to be getting challenged in the likes of the scapular retraction and protraction. Now, last up here is going to just be the cable lateral raise single arm. Pretty boring. Really just think about keeping my thumb down and elbow up to the sky. I'm not going to show you all the sets here because you don't really want to see some lateral raises, do you? So that's it. So there we go. Training for the day is complete. Now is time to get to work. Now, I don't always start work at 2 o'clock. I was doing work before I went to the gym. So prior to breakfast, I usually do get into my client replies. But now it is Tuesday, so it is a check-in day. The way I structure my check-ins, I do like Monday through to Wednesday. Now, Tuesday is probably the day where I have like the least check-ins, purely because my training takes so long on a Tuesday. So I try to have as little check-ins today as I can. And then Monday and Wednesday are kind of my main check-in days. So a benefit as well to kind of starting later on today, for me especially, is to just make sure that everybody has their check-ins in on time. Previously, when I was training a little bit later, I would essentially try to start my check-ins at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then what would happen is people would be late submitting their check-ins, and then I was essentially pissing away the morning because I wasn't actually getting the work I needed to get done. I much prefer to just do my check-ins in blocks, get them done, as opposed to having them scattered all across the day, because it just really is atrocious for my concentration if I do them like that, and I find it very difficult to get into a rhythm of work if I only have 1 or 2 check-ins to do. I need to have them in blocks. Without further ado, I am going to get to work, and I will see you later on my walk. If there's any kind of interesting topics that come up in the check-in, I may talk about them on my walk later on. So check-ins all complete. We are back. We're out on a walk now. I have about 5,000 steps to do, and yeah, check-ins went pretty decently. I had about 10 to do, so got them done. Sometimes they take a little bit longer. It really depends on the clients, and it also depends on the amount of feedback that they need or the feedback that they give me. So some people will give a lot of detail, which is really appreciated, because it gives me more opportunity to kind of help that person first of all, and then if somebody doesn't give me as much, well, then I usually have to kind of quiz them a bit more just so I can get them where they want to be. Everybody's different, everybody has different levels of how they even communicate things. One thing I've noticed is those people who often leave very little detail on the actual form itself, if you get them on a call, they'll burn the ear off you. So you really have to kind of find a way that's going to work for both the client and the coach. I'm very lucky to have so many nice walks around me that I definitely don't take for granted at all. It does make it way easier to get steps in as opposed to just walking up and down the road. Question that came up in my check-ins today: one of my clients is currently in a gaining phase at the moment, so he is 10 weeks in, and he's already asking, should I do a diet? How much longer do I have to gain for? And from my perspective, I think you are better off to just gain
train for as long as you possibly can before you need to diet. Most of the time should be spent in an anabolic environment where we have more calories, like whether that is like even like maintenance, for example, and you're really trying to push your training, you're trying to push PBs. Ideally through a gaining phase, you will be hitting numbers in training that you've never hit before. You'll be hitting like all-time PBs, and like that, while the relationship between strength and muscle mass is not necessarily 1-to-1. If you are increasing your strength over time and you're hitting huge PBs, like block after block, like you're definitely going to see an improvement in muscle mass. Quite often where these kind of questions pop up from is when somebody is gaining weight a little bit too fast. So this particular client, he's gaining weight probably a little bit faster than both of us want. So one reason you should be looking to keep these gaining processes long is that like gaining muscle mass is just a very slow process, and with that, you know, body fat is going to come alongside it. Now, if we gain too fast, we may end up skewing the ratio. So we may end up putting on more body fat than muscle, which is certainly not what we want, right? Our body has an infinite capacity essentially to put on body fat, but the actual capacity it has to put on muscle mass is far more limited. You know, like muscle is very expensive for us to maintain. Like, you know, we have to eat a considerable amount of protein, we have to do a lot of training to maintain it. Body fat, for the most part, you know, it's a storage site. If we are in time of famine, it's very handy to have. So our body is going to prioritize storing this versus building new muscle. So if we are gaining and we are gaining too fast, we're going to start to essentially put on more body fat and not as much muscle. And then at a certain point, too much body fat, like, you know, that's gonna like definitely decrease your insulin sensitivity. So insulin sensitivity, or insulin, is a hormone, okay, and it does help with you partitioning nutrients or how you store nutrients. And if that sensitivity is reduced, well, then you are not going to be able to partition nutrients as efficiently. So say for likes of carbohydrates, you may not be able to store them as glycogen as efficiently as you would have. You may not get the same kind of transport to the muscle cells as you would have if you were in a leaner state. So, you know, we want to keep insulin sensitivity relatively high. One way we do that is by keeping body fat levels appropriate and keeping relatively lean. Like, this is just one factor of gaining weight too fast, but like once that is impaired, your ability to put on body fat far outweighs your ability to put on more muscle mass. So that's a barrier that we run into. And then we run into the barrier of just simply, you don't like how you look anymore. Most people, when they're gaining weight, they do enjoy themselves filling out, and it does feel good. You start filling out your t-shirts, you look bigger, you're hitting PBs. But then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're just like, I'm kind of fat now. You know, that's not a nice feeling. No matter your relationship to your body image, that is going to affect you in some way, okay? Whether it's somebody saying to you, hey, you look a bit big now, like, you know, your significant other, like saying like, you know, you have a double chin, you notice it in the mirror. Like, you know, once that starts to go, that's going to really impact your like adherence to a gaining phase, and that's going to make you want to jump out of it. Okay, once you start to see that your belly's coming back, you're just going to want to jump out of it, and you're going to want to stop gaining weight. And you may not have gotten to the point where you have been hitting PBs in the gym. You may not have gotten to the point where you have like pushed your weight further than you did the last time. You may not have gotten to the point where you have put on any muscle, and then you essentially run into a process where you're never really getting to the point that you want to be at. So one thing that you should be aiming to do is that you should be aiming for a pretty modest increase in body weight per month, right? I think for the most part, for guys, like gaining any more than a kilo per month is a bit outrageous. Now we could put this down to percentage of like body weight gain per month. 1% is typically the range you'd probably give to somebody who's intermediate. Somebody who's like a beginner, you could probably afford to put on 1.5% of your body weight per month. For somebody who's advanced, if you're advanced, you'll know you're advanced because you're probably really jacked, you're probably really strong. Like, you probably shouldn't be aiming to put on much more than like 0.5% of body weight per month, and this is per month as opposed to per week. So for somebody who's 100 kilos, you should be looking to put on like a kilo per month. If you are advanced, like half a kilo per month, which is really fuck all. So in that respect, if you are on that side of the equation and you are pretty advanced, you should really just be focused on training performance. But if you're in that early stage, you can definitely just like be a little bit more liberal with the weight gain. But at the same time, like, you know, once you run into the point where you have like shit appetite, you are having shit training sessions, your sleep and recovery are terrible, and you just don't feel good in yourself, that's when you're going to have to cap it. One kind of rule of thumb I like to use, I got this from Alberto Nunez, is for every 4 weeks that you spend gaining weight, you should give yourself a week of dieting, and that does kind of work out quite well. So I use that kind of framework myself, and you know, over the course of the last like 2 or 3 years, put on more muscle mass than I ever have. So definitely would recommend it. Anyway, I'm going to finish off my walk and I'll talk to you later. We are at dinner time now. I'm not really showing you any meals today because you fucking got the full whack about last week. Watching Better Call Saul, and then after that it's pretty much bedtime because it is 8 o'clock and I go to bed at old man time at 9 o'clock. That is pretty much my day wrapped up. It is bedtime now. It is 5 to 9, quite early, but it's my routine. Pretty mundane day for the most part, but that's how most days go. I mean, most days aren't necessarily going to be anything massive or memorable. Today was just another day closer to the goal. Ticked all the boxes that I need to do: business, training, life. Got them all ticked off, and now that
left to take.
and then that all added up over the course of, you know, weeks, months, years. That's going to get me closer to my goals. And that's kind of what you want. You want that kind of consistent, just day-to-day process, day-to-day routine. So that's it. Hope it was somewhat useful. Maybe you put a few people to sleep, but look, can't please everybody. So yeah, if you did enjoy the video, or even if you didn't, actually, especially if you didn't, make sure to like it. And definitely subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one. I have a few exciting weeks planned. So yeah, you will see them as they unfold.